Since the first Fallout game, the VATS system has been a staple of top-down gameplay, allowing you to pick and choose which part of the enemy you would like to shoot. Today we'll be figuring out, can you beat Fallout New Vegas with only using VATS in combat? The rules for this challenge are quite simple. I can only use VATS to attack enemies in gameplay. That means no attacking any other enemies or other NPCs out of combat. I'll be playing on the very hard difficulty with survival mode enabled. I assume you all know about Fallout New Vegas. We get cucked by one of Walt Disney's goons while working as an Amazon package delivery guy. We get shot, but it's all good because we get a free lobotomy. And in addition, we get to pick our special points. Since we are solely relying on VATS, I'm going to need a shit ton of action points, meaning we need high agility. Luck will be used greatly as our crits are the only way we are going to do any serious damage. Finally, intelligence is good just to get more experience points faster. We don't need much strength as the weapons we'll be using don't really need to rely on the strength checks. While the old man yaps in my ear about how I'm entitled and lazy, I loot his home like Vegas does to modern day boomers. Then picking my tag skills and traits, I go with repair, science, and speech. Following that, I also pick fast shot and kamikaze. Fast shot allows for 20% less action points to be used in VATS, but it is also 20% less accurate. Not really a big downside, as most weapons I'll be using do not have that bad of spread, but then it leads to moments like in Pokemon. If your move isn't 100% accurate, it might as well just be 50% accurate moments. Then there's Kamikaze. That gives me 10 more action points, which isn't much, but I want to squeeze every action point to help myself out. Once the good doctor gives me back my crap, I turn up the radio, fix up his grease gun, and make some drugs. We're off to steal everything in Good Springs that isn't nailed down, grabbing a skill book for sneak, stealing everything from that dirty clanker's shack, and then selling all the bonus content to Shed for a quick buck. Spam the ammunition workbench for some easy experience, commit some breaking and entering, and then I talk to Sunny and agree to meet her out back, not before I steal everything inside the bar's inventory. Outside, I shoot some bottles, which is okay because they haven't risen up as our new overlords and made us their subjects. Then I agree to meet Sunny at the water well, commit some more breaking and entering, mark the graveyard on the map to fast travel back to later. Regrouping with Sunny to clear out the wells outside of town, during which I leveled up and I picked the light touch perk, which gives me more crits while wearing light armor. Then I saved a woman who I did not accidentally shoot in VATS in the head. Got some good karma, and then drank the entire bar's inventory of all its contents until I got the Day Tripper perk. Fast traveling back to the graveyard to smush some flies with my shovel, I picked up some cigarettes because only you can prevent wildfires, yoinked the snow globe, dug up the largest Second Amendment group that have ever lived. No, seriously, 2 shotguns, a varmint rifle, and a 9mm handgun was some pretty good loot if you ask me. One alcohol anonymous trip later, I then headed to the school to clear out the Mantis squatters without missing a single shot. After taking all the drugs that they keep for the special ed children in the school safe, I return back to Sunny and make even more drugs. Sunny then tells me to go talk to Trudy at the bar, fixed her radio, and then headed off to do better and greater things. Heading out of town, I reallocated my stats the same as before, but when I leveled up, I dumped all my skill points into the science and picked the Black Widow perk. If you don't know already, the dead money perks, when they are added, are allowed to be kept if you respect your character. Neat fact. I then head out to Lone Wolf Radio for another skill book for survival before making it back onto the I-15. Making it to Sloan's, giving it the whole Good Springs treatment by tactically acquiring 2 more skill books before fixing their generator, and then taking my compensation. Outside, I ran into Malcolm Holmes and expressed my thoughts about collecting Funko Pops. Marking Hidden Valley on the map and then moving towards Black Mountain, I thought I could take on the centaurs there, but they proved to be too tanky and resource draining. So instead, I scaled the mountain and did the old reliable of phasing through the fence and entering the radio building. There I made a mad dash to the storage unit, praying that the super mutant sniper wouldn't add me to his MLG collection. While inside, I fixed up the clanker and returned her to Tabitha, then received a boatload of experience.
Leveling up, and I picked the Travel Light perk, which gives me a 10% movement speed boost while wearing light armor. This is good for backpedaling on enemies while my AP bar recharges, and also it's just an overall quality of life perk. With potentially 10 agility, makes walking to point A to point B all the more easier. I then gave Raul my gratitude for trying to charge me money to fix my equipment after freeing him from Black Mountain. Then I made my way to the 188 trading post, acquiring the best mid-game armor and a service rifle with a forged receiver upgrade. Trekking over to Novac, I encountered some fire ants and turned them against each other, which led to moments like this. I then marked Helios One and then Scrapyard along my map, and then ran into a problem while marking the gas station along the way. Typically, there's an entire gang here ready to ambush you. However, this time it was only the leader, in which this fight took way longer than it needed to be. Sticking very close to this chud because I didn't want to blow myself up with his grenade rifle. Finally reaching Novac, I wanted to do Boone's quest so I can get access to the first recon beret. I could have killed him for it, but the quest is really simple. All you gotta do is get the key off of May for her safe, grab the bill of sale, talk to Boone, wake her up in her own home. Seriously, does nobody lock their doors in this world? Anyways, convince her to come to the dinosaur, put on the hat, too easy, show Boone the bill of sale, and done, easy money. Returning back to the 188 trading post, I make my way now to Boulder City to ease tensions between the cons and the NCR. I resolve everything peacefully, leveling up to 6 and choosing the demonetization perk for 5% more damage. Resolving the situation this way gives me access to both their armories, a nifty little radio while I was walking to Hoover Dam, and then I took that said snow globe from Hoover Dam. It's time to max out my special stats by getting the necessary implants from the Followers Clinic outside of Freeside. A 5-minute walk later, and then I reach New Vegas. Marking all the outer locations and putting down some rabid animals, I grabbed the snow globe from the old Mormon fort. Made a pit stop inside the Atomic Wrangler for some pre-workout gambling. Dealing with some wannabe muggers, making it past the gate, this is where I put my montage of me breaking the bank at all the casinos. If I had the footage!
Yeah, for some reason the footage corrupted during this whole ordeal and I couldn't be bothered to re-record it. So I'll just tell you now, after being banned from all the casinos, I bought the cybernetic upgrades for perception, intelligence, agility, luck, and the damage resistant one too. I also took the key off of Sarah in Vault 21 and got the snow globe from there as well. Back at Good Springs, I aided Gringo in defending the town from the Powder Gamers, convincing Trudy, Easy Pete, and Doc. However, even at my level, I still had to pay off Shet because my barter was deep in the gutter. The fight at Good Springs wasn't bad itself, but that lower damage threshold is really starting to take its toll even with the implant to compensate for it. On the way to Prim, dealing with more Powder Gamers and the local wildlife, I was going to clear the town and prepare it for its new sheriff that's over in the prison. Inside of the Bison Steve Casino, I made it to level 8 and picked the Grunt perk. This will give me more damage with service rifles and pistols of the like. At this point, I decided to use the 9mm pistol more often than not, as it was cheaper than the service rifle and crit more often. Clearing both of the floors, I freed Deputy Beagle and told him that if he ran off, I'd break his legs and make him walk back. I kept moving towards the Mojave outpost, stopping off at the highway patrol station and picking up another skill book for guns. On another note, if you're going to try this challenge out for yourself, it's important to note that you can kill the mantis nymphs outside of VATS by stepping on them. What I also didn't know is that they could die if you throw a stick of dynamite. Also, I almost blew myself up in the process of clearing out the bathroom. Making it to the outpost finally, I pick up 2 other quests to clear out some ants in the overpass and then walk to Nipton for a ranger ghost, neither of which was difficult. Dealt with Thomas and then Jacqueline after calling her a moron because she doesn't know how to count. I told the furry I'd spread the word of his RP Discord server and returned back to the outpost. Take a wild guess of what faction we're going to be siding with in this playthrough. It's the Legion. Heading over to the NCR correctional facility, I begin purging the entire prison in a drug-filled high rage. Grabbing the powder charge schematic and killing all of Eddie's gang presents a glaring problem in my current state. If I am outmatched 2-1 with automatic weapons, I get turned into Swiss cheese very easily, and the only way I'm able to scrape by is through using explosives. Speaking to Myers after killing everyone in the room with him, I ask about him becoming the new lawman for Prim, and he wants to pardon for his past criminal history. One skill check later, and then he's been promoted from felon to sheriff. I level up, picking the finesse perk for an additional 5% crit chance. Back to Nipton, I clear out the town hall in a manner that would make PETA very proud. Picked up a skill book, and continued to Cottonwood Cove.
I told the NCR troopers at Camp Searchlight I, a woman, entered a camp of notorious slavers and was freely able to walk around. They gave me a bug to spy on the Legion. Instead of planting it, I turned it into them, and they gave me back in return faulty patrol plans for some more reputation. After teaching the Legion how to make IEDs with the soup camp, I went back to Novac to deal with their ghoul problem at REPCONN. It was not a very good fight. I had to back up multiple times. In fact, the town had to get involved itself. If I am unable to deal with threats before my action points run out, I just become a wet paper bag. Arriving in REPCONN and speaking to the voices in the walls, they're in the walls, they're in the walls, they're in the walls. We learned that this cult just wants to go back to the Promised Land, so we naturally oblige them. They tell us that inside of the basement there are a bunch of nightkin, so I definitely do not want to fight them. Somehow, despite me running straight to Davidson and agreeing to help him, I get jumped not by one, but two nightkin. Playing Ring Around the Rosie with them gives me enough time to recharge my action points before finishing them off. Not wanting to deal with Harlan and his bullshit of finding his tramp, I give him the good old CIA treatment after he discovers the cure for cancer. I then get the shipping notice, tell the Nightkin kindly to fuck off, and return back to the cult leader and tell him that he's good to go back to his basement and goon. Chris needs some parts in order to get his rocket off the ground, so heading to the scrapyard, I paid the tweaker in the lot 250 caps for the thrust modules, and then found the igniting agent after finding a guy who tried to bathe in it, in which I almost died to a bunch of golden geckos. Returning back to the cult and giving the parts to Chris, I convinced him not to drink the Kool-Aid. I instead programmed the rockets to drink it instead with the cult in them. Then finishing the quest and giving Chris Survivor's Guild, and then being idolized by the town. I then got lost on what I wanted to do next, thinking I could try to take on the Fiends on the outskirts of Vault 3, but I got quickly humbled. I then leveled up to 12 and picked the Pack Rat perk, because not having a lot of carry space was quickly becoming a problem. Heading back to Freeside, I thought I'd do some easy back and forth quests to bump up my gun skills as much as possible. I helped the followers get more supplies and deal with their attic problem. Then I did some debt collecting for both of the Garrett twins while also pimping out the local populace. I got ambushed in a very not suspicious alleyway and one of the would-be assailants actually surrendered, which was the first time this ever happened to me before, so I let him live. Turning in both Wayne Tang Atomic Tango and Debt Collector, I also got work looking for more acts for the Tops Casino. A couple more fast travel trips later and a quick trip to cause some fire ants to do a civil war, I reached level 14 and picked the Commando perk, giving me 25% more accuracy in VATS when using rifles, which is really needed at this point. Back at the strip, I get my payment for the recruitment and return back to Freeside. I help out the Kings resolve everything peacefully with the NCR. Leaving the House of Impersonation, I get jumped by the most amount of thugs I have ever seen. If you know anything about the GI Blues quest line, it is a walkathon back and forth between loading zones. Hiring Oris, I rat out his scheme, report to the King, talk to the Beacon, report back to the King, talk to Julius Farkas for the good ending, get the password or speech check on the way inside, talk to the Major, take Swink's hostage money, return back to the King for a third time, investigate the shootout, talk the soldiers down, and then finally complete the quest. It is a very time-consuming quest, but it puts me on the edge of level 16. So I head to Helios One to do that lucky old sun quest next. I grab the 2 terminal codes, got some cash from the dope head with sunglasses. After reconnecting the terminals, I head into the basement and deal with the robots using some of that AP ammo that Ranger Andy gave me back at the outpost. After distributing all the power equally to Vegas, I decided now would be the best time to get the main weapon for this run, being the All-American. It has one of the lowest AP costs in the game, without any perks affecting it too, making it a definite go-getter. Problem is, it's in Vault 34. Making the trek over to Vault 34, I grabbed the quest from the pump station nearby to make the trip a little bit more worth my while. Breaking and entering into Rawl's shack, I max out my gun skill to 100 and then begin making my way into the armory. Everything in here hits like a truck, and with the radiation leaking everywhere inside the vault, if I don't deal with the ghouls quickly enough, they begin to heal. The one good thing about these ghouls is that they don't know how to open doors or swim. So I retreat into a safe place and recharge my AP points and rinse and repeat. I begin to run out of ammo for my service rifle, and I didn't want to trek back to the gun runners to acquire more. So I began using some of the abundant 10mm ammo and pistols lying around, and then of course my own 9mm that I brought with me. I spent a good 20 minutes killing everything inside of the Overseer's wing. Then I went down into the reactor core room, closed off the vents, sealing the radiation and the remaining survivors, and finished Hard Luck Blues. I thought that this quest would give off more than 100 XP points given the level of difficulty, but the real experience were the drug addictions that I got along the way. Psych! It's the All-American baby! Give it up for the All-American baby! This thing fucking slaps. It's one of the best semi-auto rifles in the game. Leaving Vault 34, I get jumped by a pack of golden geckos, in which I needed a turbo out of there. Running down to Camp Golf, fast traveled back to the Dr. Amari to get rid of all the Chernobyl amount of radiation that I soaked up. Stocking up then on a bunch of 5.56 from the quartermaster at Hoover Dam. This will be the last time that we align ourselves with the NCR. Before I deal with Benny at the Tops Casino and then the fight at Hoover Dam, it would be best to deal with the boomers now rather than later. Heading over there, I made a bet with a jackass who probably sent countless others to their deaths, ran through some artillery, and was brought to speak with the head boomer, Pearl, who then told me I was not working hard enough and that I was entitled, sending me to do some unpaid manual labor. I then listened to some brain-rotted Gen Alpha kid yap, killed some ants in the basement, repaired the solar panels with the spare parts from Helios One, and then I got the go-ahead to raise the lady from the lake. Fast traveling back to Camp Golf, quickly do the flag of our follow-ups, and then spent a lot of time attempting to board the landing with a bunch of lake lurks. They can two-shot me with their stupid sonar attacks, so getting the drop on them is hard, seeing how they can shoot through the goddamn floor! Afterwards, I placed the ballast charge under the bomber, raising it, returning to the boomers, and now they're done and ready to be subject to the Legion. Next up on the Legion's hit list is the Brotherhood of Steel, which are also a pushover. Using one of the codes off the Dead Knights, I get the Hanson dog treatment, tell the ranger to stick his rifle up his ass, and then report back to the elder. Then, grabbing the keycards off all the head department elders, sneak out of there like a fork in a microwave. The Brotherhood are gone. Returning back to Vegas, it's finally time to deal with Benny after 10 hours of gameplay. One quick trip to the Lucky 38, cashing in all my snow globes for 10,000 caps later, I convinced Swank to set up Benny in his room, shooting his pistol out of his hand, then killing him with it. Level up to 18, and pick the Action Girl perk for 15 more action points. Grabbing the platinum chip off of Benny's dead corpse, I return back to Mr. House, and instead of returning the chip to him, I immediately head for his subchamber. Unfortunately, I cannot attack him via by VATS for some reason. Regardless, I disconnect him, taking him out of the picture. Leaving, I get the Mark of Caesar, and then fast travel down to Cottonwood Cove. One lame boat ride over to Caesar's encampment, and he wants me to destroy the Circuitron army sitting underneath the fort. In which I semi-oblige him. Inserting the Mark II upgrade does the same thing as blowing up the army of Securitrons, so after disabling the security alert, it's one quick trip there and back. And Caesar is nonetheless wiser. Caesar next wants us to get the aid of the boomers so that way they can get more cash flow for their up-and-coming battle through the military-industrial complex. And then it's off to the White Glove Society to recruit them as well. Unfortunately, I really don't know how to recruit them without the cannibal perk, so I just kill them all instead. Caesar is upset, but nonetheless he sends the idiot who couldn't schedule a catering event to go then and do brain surgery. I run back to Vault 34, grab the autodoc parts, and repair the one in Caesar's tent. Caesar then goes and tasks me to assassinate President Kimball. Linking up with Cato outside of Boulder City, we make our way over to Hoover Dam. Killing Kimball is nothing short of easy. If not, going forward, or if any of y'all are interested in doing this yourself, you should try investing more into sneak for that first shot critical sneak attack bonus. I then level up and pick the final rank of the Action Grill perk for now a bonus of 30 action points to my AP bar. Afterwards, I thought I'd stock up on drugs and gear before the final battle of Hoover Dam by making my way over to Red Rock Canyon to trade with the armor over there because the NCR are going to trade me anything except for a bullet to the head. Dealing with some fiends from before, killing both Cook and Violetta, I then got ambushed by some NCR Rangers, who like in action movies for some reason decided to attack me one at a time. Even after being declared a terrorist, they still have no violence of action to kill you even though you're the guy that killed their president. One shopping spree and teaching how to make drugs to the local Boy Scouts at the campfire, it's time for the Legion to attack Hoover Dam. The assault on top of Hoover Dam is very easy, with the cannon fodder charging at the NCR firing lines, allow for easy work to pick off the enemies from a distance. Helping the Legion deal with the snipers and then letting them out of the basement allows me to stroll on through. By the time I confront General Oliver is where the real fight begins. Usually you're supposed to have the Great Khan support you, but they were nowhere to be found. The troopers were no fight, however the Rangers are now armed with late game weapons that will either one-shot me or tear me to shreds in seconds. This evolves into a game of cat and mouse with the Ranger snipers in the hall. Between that and the multiple traps laid out makes this a slow push. I died multiple times not only to this Ranger with the anti-material rifle, but the General hide behind Tin Men and his own team of heavy troopers, which also takes a full bar of AP just to kill, given if none of my shots miss or get a critical hit. After killing most of the tin cans, General Oliver begins to rush me down. While backing into an office, he's met with a 12-gauge surprise. The cons finally show up, tattered and wounded, but serve as a good final distraction. One of them greets me on the way out. I return back to Leggett victorious. Answering yes, you can indeed beat Fallout New Vegas with only using VATS. I hope you all enjoyed my playthrough of New Vegas, and that you'll stick around to see how this build does against all 4 DLCs in the future. If you want to try this for yourself, I think you would enjoy this more better on a regular or lower difficulty, as the enemies become way less bullet spongy, or go without the kamikaze perk. With that, I hope you all have a nice day, and remember to smile.